ParaNorman. Halloween seemed to have come early this year. Maybe a little too early. But honestly, I wouldn't blame them for that. I mean, with not one, but two Halloween-related animated features coming out, not to mention that one of them is also stop motion, you do want to have your animated film released first. This is pretty common in the animation industry. Some good examples of that are Ants and A Bug's Life, Madagascar and The Wild, Despicable Me and Megamind, and even more. But back on to ParaNorman, will this film rise above the rest from the dead? Or does it deserve a silver bullet through its head? Let's find out. The story. The story itself, I have to say, is not only interesting and original, but it also gets more and more engaging as the movie would progress. Here's what I mean. The first act starts out a little slow where we see the life of Norman as an outcast, Tim Burton style, who is able to talk with the dead. Then the second act picks up a bit and becomes a fun zombie movie, but not as bloody or gory as the other zombie flicks. And then it goes full throttle by the third act, where Norman and the rest have to find a way to stop the witch's curse. By that time, the movie gets very intense, epic, and at some points heartwarming. The only problem I have with this movie is that the jokes are not really funny. In fact, they're pretty bad. Now, you may think that it's because they would use a lot of dumb zombie jokes, but that's not really the case here. Most of the jokes consist of lowbrow humor, and some don't even make sense or even feels out of character when they do it. When the movie wants to be serious, on the other hand, that's when it gets good because they would focus less on telling jokes and focus more on telling the plot. There will be times when they will stop and attempt to make a joke, but the story can get very solid and enjoyable when it wants to. The animation. I know this is only their second or third animated feature, but I'm starting to like Laika Entertainment. No pun intended. Similar to the story, the animation would get better and better as time passes. One thing that stands out is that they used more special effects here than they did in Coraline, and they have put it to great use. Yeah, there are some parts that may seem like they did it in computer, which in some cases are, but just thinking that a good majority of it was done in handmade stop motion, it just makes it incredible. And I don't even have to add that they did a great job on the character animation, especially now that the film includes zombies and ghosts. I feel like it allows the animators to experiment a lot more with the medium. When it comes to the character design, at first, I thought it looked weird and abstract, and it reminded me a lot of the game Psychonauts. I don't know if it's just me, but I still think it looks unnatural to the human characters. But when I look at it more, I notice that the world around them is designed the same way, and the design makes the zombies look very creative. It's pretty much at that point that I realized that it works for a movie like this. If Laika can make Coraline and this film look so great to look at, then I can't wait to see what else they can make with their stop-motion magic. The characters. Much like an actual horror movie, the human characters are not that memorable and they don't seem to be worked on that much. Most of them are just generic and can be seen in plenty other movies. You'll see as I go along. First off, we have Norman. Because of his ability to talk to the dead, he's more of an outcast. Plenty of people just make fun of him and he's pretty much antisocial. But here's the problem with him. He's such an outcast and doesn't want to be with anyone throughout the movie that even I don't care much for him. They focus on that aspect so much that it's hard to find him remotely likable. It's only at the end where he shows just a little bit of likability. There's Neil, who's like if you mix Milhouse and Ralph from The Simpsons. He's the comic relief of the movie, But with him, he's not really good at it. He makes these jokes that are a little bit funny the first time you hear it, but then they would get old super quick. Then we have Courtney, Norman's sister, who is the usual teen valley girl who has a crush on Neil's brother, Mitch. Now, with this guy, I have to say he's the funniest character of the movie. It's more his jokes that I end up laughing at, especially the last one he did at the end. I won't say what it is, but let's just say he's the first of his kind in an animated film that's lower than PG-13. There's Alvin, who starts out as your typical bully, but then becomes a dumb and kinda perverted ally to Norman. Then there's Norman's parents, in which we have the mom, who is the only person that cares about Norman, and the very down-to-earth, closed-minded dad. And then we have the main presentation, the zombies. Of course, they are the best characters of the film, but not because they're the brain-eating style of zombies that can be decapitated by plants. They're actually more the sympathetic Frankenstein monster style of characters when they would invade the town. Now, I'm not saying that I don't like the characters, in fact, they are tolerable, but it's just that I feel like there wasn't much effort in making them. ParaNorman is a fun and enjoyable homage to the classic horror genre. Sure, it's not really as good as Coraline with a bad sense of humor and a set of bland and generic characters, but it really makes up for it with its unique and appealing story and wonderful stop-motion animation. This is the kind of film that I would highly recommend for those who enjoy watching the George Romero zombie movies, because this would be the perfect animated film for them. Not only that, but this would also be a great film to watch during the Halloween time next to The Nightmare Before Christmas. Speaking of Halloween, 1 down, 2 to go.